torrential downpours. It's going to be difficult to get to work. It's going to be difficult to get to school. You may want to start thinking about backup plans, how you're going to do that. If you're going to wait until the storm passes, flooding will be a possibility. This is widespread heavy rainfall pretty much across the entire coastal bend. This is when our winds are starting to pick up as well. As that moves inland by lunchtime, impacting more areas into the brush country and beginning to taper off. But again, isolated pockets of heavy rainfall still remain possible even into early Wednesday morning. I'm thinking 2 to 4 inches likely for most of the area, getting a little lower the further north you go, but localized heavier rainfall totals will be possible. So here's another look at that coastal flood warning. So that's for our islands. What we are looking at are those high waves. Waves will be up to the dunes and even some property, especially near the beach. Some of those roads may see some water on them. Shoreline erosion is going to be possible, and the rip current will be dangerous. High tide times are going to be at 7:58 tonight and then 5:48 early Tuesday morning. That's at Bob Hall Pier. Similar tide times there at Port Aransas. That's where the system is now. We're already starting to see some 8 to 12 foot waves. Our waves right now are running about a foot out at the buoy, but here's as the system is approaching, watch, we start to see these brighter yellows. This is when our waters are starting to get dangerous. Waves are picking up. As you'll see, 8 to 12 foot waves. Some areas offshore may see 12 to 14 foot waves. That starts to go down as it continues to move offshore. We'll see our waves back to 2 to 4 foot by the time we head into Wednesday evening. So these are going to be the main impacts from this system. Again, it's still well in the middle central Gulf of Mexico right now. And now I'm going to take a little bit of time to check in and see some of your questions. If you are watching this on Facebook Live or YouTube, I just want to thank you all for watching. Make sure you are staying weather aware because this is going to have some impacts. It's not a named storm yet. It could be named by the time it makes landfall, but mostly it's going to be a rainmaker. We could use the rain, but we're also going to see the risk for some higher wind as well. So I'm pulling this up now, and we'll get to answering a couple of questions before we end it. So, will the bluff get rain from Brandy? Yes, definitely. Everyone's going to get rain. Here's another rain timeline that we have for that rainfall. So just some light showers, maybe a few starting to pick up in the rainfall coverage by 4 a.m. with some heavier rain starting to move in. By 6 a.m. we have heavy rain across much of the area, and it's going to be fairly widespread. So from 6 to 10 a.m. Flower Bluff will be on the earlier side of this timeline, so more like 4, 6, 7, 8, and areas further inland. So Alice will be a little bit later. 7, 8, 9, 10 is when you'll see the heaviest rain. Victoria, Texas is on the northern side of this, so not going to get the highest or heaviest rainfall totals there, Rebecca. Rivera definitely looks like you're going to get it on some beneficial rainfall for sure, but again, that can lead to flooding, especially when we're seeing that heavy rainfall right as everybody is going to school. That's one of the biggest issues with this storm is the timing. It's going to be moving in early tomorrow morning, early Tuesday morning. That's when our flooding risk is going to be and when our high wind risk is going to be, is right at school time, unfortunately. As of right now, I am not aware of school delays, but we will have all of that information on KIIITV.com and additionally on First Edition Live tomorrow morning, so you'll want to be watching from 5 to 7 a.m. And we may continue our coverage as well if it calls for it. B County is also under that tropical storm warning. So here's our watches and warnings map. B County under the tropical storm warning. You may not see the heaviest rainfall, but again, feeder bands could stay further north and you could get a higher rainfall total. Right now I'm thinking around an inch or less for B County, but you will see some rain and you will see the potential for some higher winds. But you are on the northern end of this. So as this is moving in, I'm going to put this in where I can zoom out a little so we can see the center of the storm. So, some isolated activity early on today, a little bit of sea breeze activity more than necessarily from this tropical system. But this model not showing it, there we go. So this right here, I'll put the low on here. This is going to be the center right here, based on this model. It could move a little further north, and then B County would see higher rainfall totals. It could move a little further south, and then you would see a lot less rain. But with where I expect it to set up, moving in toward middle to southern Kennedy County, that's going to give most of the coastal bend the heaviest rainfall, but of course closer to the center of the low, the highest winds and some of the heaviest rainfall will be expected. But you can see on this model, it doesn't really get very organized until right as it's making landfall. So whether or not it gets a name and gets up to that tropical storm force before the center of the low moves onshore will be a close call. If it does get a name, it would be Tropical Storm Harold, but again, it's not named yet. It's currently potential Tropical Cyclone 9, which means it has the potential to reach that tropical storm strength just before landfall, and the timing of this system is just so close. It's within 24 hours, so we've got to be able to put out warnings without it officially getting a name, and so that's where that tropical storm or potential tropical storm cyclone comes into play. Kingsville, you're going to get in on some of the heaviest rainfall, probably closer to 2 to 4 inches. As this storm moves through, you're going to see some of the highest wind as well. I would expect gusts of 50 miles per hour tomorrow morning. Power outages will be likely, none yet because it hasn't started. Duval County is going to see some of the same things. So basically how it's going to go is the further away you live from this area, where the L passes by, you're still going to see rain, but you're going to wind up likely with a little bit less rain and a little bit less wind. But everyone, I would say, should expect 40 mile per hour wind gust and rainfall totals easily 2 to 4 inches. B County, Refugio County, you could see a little less, but it does look like some of those feeder bands may move through your area, and so that would lead to a higher rainfall total. But timeline, I'll show a timeline one more time before I end this live. But overall, this is a pretty good timeline. Heaviest rainfall, I would say between 5 a.m. and 11 a.m. That's in terms of torrential downpours will be possible. Then it becomes a little bit more isolated as we continue on throughout the day. But the worst time is going to be 5 a.m., let's say 10 a.m. If you're closer to Duval County, that might be when it's more 11 noon. But for the most part, 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. is when we're going to see the heaviest rain and additionally those highest wind speeds. And I will say, I feel like this is potentially underdoing the wind, especially for Clayburgh County, so Kingsville, even Jim Wells County, I would say Alice South, and kind of southern Nueces County as well. You likely will see 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts, but 40 to 50 mile per hour likely across the coastal bend. I want to thank everybody for watching. You can always keep up to date with everything you need to know by downloading this app, the KIIITV.com app. It is a great way to keep up to date with our tropical weather coverage and any other news that is happening across the coastal bend. I'm meteorologist Carly Smith, and thank you for watching.